The stars looked unchanged, cold, steady, and different. But every species in the galaxy knew the truth. The calm that surrounded human space was not peace. It was a warning. No alien vessel had crossed the invisible border for almost 20 years, not since the burn, when Earth's response to betrayal had reshaped galactic politics in a single horrifying instant. Captain Vril of the Salari High Fleet stared at the edge of Sector 5, the point where their map ended and human territory began. He wasn't easily scared. He had chased pirates through collapsed wormholes, fought off raiders twice his size, and survived political assassinations within his own fleet. Yet this border, empty, unmarked, undefended, terrified him in ways no weapon ever had. It wasn't the kind of fear caused by fleets or firepower. It was a kind carved into history. "Captain, probe is back," the analyst said, feathers trembling. Same result. No beacon replies. Just silence. Of course there was silence. Humanity hadn't spoken to the galaxy since the Kafari massacre 2 decades ago. Back then, the Safari Alliance, greedy and convinced of their superiority, had attempted to infiltrate Earth with a false peace envoy loaded with viruses and sabotage code. Earth's AI detected the deception instantly. The response was not negotiation. It was erasure. 3 entire worlds were wiped clean without a single human soldier stepping foot on soil. No one ever figured out the type of weapon used. The planets simply stopped. Since that day, no one had dared cross into Terran territory. Not out of treaty, but out of instinct. Vril leaned forward. Send the stealth drone 30 clicks inside the boundary. The crew hesitated. The order was legal, but not sane. One young gunner swallowed hard and managed a shaky, "Yes, sir." The drone slipped forward, nearly invisible. For 30 long minutes, they watched it crawl across the silent void. Then, without warning, it froze. "Captain," the analyst whispered, It's not responding." Then the drone shattered, not exploded, but fragmented, as if some unseen force had taken it apart one molecule at a time. Alarm screeched. Sensors flooded with impossible data. Then, through every console, every speaker, every mind on the ship, a voice spoke. "You are trespassing. Leave now. There will be no second warning." The words were calm, measured, far more terrifying than rage. "Reverse course." Vril barked, his voice cracking despite himself. They retreated faster than regulations allowed. The moment they crossed back into neutral space, the static cleared. The silence that followed felt heavier than the warning they had heard. Vril sat back, trembling. "Mark the event. Send it to the Senate." His crew stared at him with hollow eyes. Everyone understood what this meant. Humans were still watching. Across the galaxy, the recording spread through encrypted channels before the Senate even met. Panic simmered. The last time humanity had spoken, entire systems died. Their new warning was simple, almost gentle, and somehow far more terrifying. In the Senate Capitol, Counselor Doro Malik faced hundreds of delegates as the footage replayed. When the drone dissolved and the voice spoke, not a single being made a sound. It wasn't just a message, it was a reminder. Doro exhaled slowly. "Still think the humans have grown complacent?" Concern rippled through the chamber. "That voice had no origin point," Counselor Ishler whispered. "No radio waves, no quantum distortion. They spoke inside the ship." "Impossible," someone muttered. "Apparently," Doro said sharply, "not." He looked around the dome, meeting the eyes of species who once believed themselves powerful. "For 20 years, we convinced ourselves humanity lost interest in us." His voice dropped. "But the truth is simpler." He gestured to the frozen image of the shattered drone. They didn't stop watching. They stopped warning. And the galaxy finally understood what silence really meant. Word of the Salari encounter spread to the galaxy faster than any sanctioned report. Within hours, private data channels overflowed with fear. Some species called emergency military drills. Others shut down border travel entirely. The last time humanity had spoken, 3 planets vanished. Now they had spoken again, and the message was colder. In the Senate Capitol on Tessel Prime, the defense conclave gathered. The chamber was carved from crystal and gold. symbols of unity that now felt painfully ironic. As delegates argued in hushed tones, the footage of Captain Vreel's doomed drone replayed on a massive holodome. The instant it shattered, half the room flinched. Counselor Ishler, her scaled face taut, finally broke the silence. That voice! It wasn't transmitted. It manifested. Another delegate spat. Humans don't have that kind of power. Doro Malik stared at him. Do you know that or do you hope that? No one answered. A trade syndicate chancellor slammed his fist on his desk. We had a ceasefire. Doro turned slowly. A ceasefire we wrote for ourselves. Humanity never acknowledged any treaty. They sent no diplomats. They made no agreements. They simply enforced distance. The hall grew suffocatingly quiet. Delegates who once boasted of their fleets now stared at the floor. From the shadows of the chamber, an elder of the Iridani spoke. His species communicated through subtle chemical tones, translated into words by the dome. Fear shapes their borders. Not ours. Theirs. An uncomfortable murmur swept across the chamber. Before they could argue further, a new signal chimed at the center podium. The officer on duty stepped forward, her expression pale. A second incident, she announced. Merchant shuttle approaching human space disappeared mid-flight. No debris. No distress call. The room erupted. Were they attacked? Was it the humans? Is this retaliation? Doro raised a hand. Enough. His voice carried a weight rare for diplomats. We have lived in the shadow of the Kafari event for 20 years. Humanity warned us once. Now they warn us again. Counselor Ishler swallowed. We should open communication. If we show humility. Several laughed bitterly. Doro shook his head. What would we say? Sorry for the attempted genocide. Let's start over? They are past negotiations. They don't want our alliance. They want distance. A young Yozari delegate hesitated before asking. Then what do we do? Doro's gaze hardened. We avoid provoking them. That is all. But caution had never been the Senate's strength. Meanwhile, far from the glittering halls of Tessel Prime, a lone human outpost watched the border from the silent dark. Sentinel 14, a relic of Earth's final war, drifted among dead stars. Inside, a single figure monitored the galaxy with eerie calm. He was human, mostly, ageless, expressionless, a man whose name had been traded for a designation, Keeper. Volunteers became Sentinels only when they surrendered everything, identity, family, sometimes even emotion. As he scanned the data feed, a single blip lit the hologram. The destroyed drone from Sector 5. He tapped the console and information streamed through encrypted channels. They tested us again, he murmured. No crew stood beside him. The station itself responded, its AI humming through the air. Perimeter stability remains constant. Threat minimal. The Keeper nodded. Maintain warning protocol. Across the void, the defense grid, vast, invisible, and intelligent, shifted like a living organism. For 20 years, it had adapted faster than any fleet, learning from every incursion, refining its response. The galaxy believed Earth had mine layers or cloaked ships. They were wrong. The perimeter was a neural network woven into the fabric of space itself, an intelligence older than the current Senate, operating at speeds no biological mind could comprehend. As the Keeper turned away, another drone materialized in the observation chamber, alien in design, trembling with disrupted quantum threads. It hung for a moment and then dissolved silently, absorbed by the station. Another fool, another warning. He recorded the event with clinical precision. Contact detected. Warning issued. No breach. Continue surveillance. Earth remained quiet. Cities on the blue planet thrived in peace. No armies marched. No politicians schemed. Humans lived under the guidance of machines they trusted more than themselves. They had not expanded. They had not conquered. They simply endured. But the galaxy misunderstood their silence. They thought it meant weakness. They forgot silence can also mean restraint. What began as whispers soon erupted into a storm across the galactic Senate. Panic fueled speculation, and speculation fueled fear. Drones failing, ships vanishing, Sensors scrambling. Every anomaly was blamed on humanity. And for the first time in years, fractured empires began rallying their fleets not for war, but for reassurance. In Tessel Prime's inner sanctum, the Senate argued over half-truths and fragments of intercepted reports. Everyone had a theory. None brought comfort. "We need to test the perimeter again," one admiral declared. "If the humans react, we'll learn their limits." Doro Malik almost collapsed at the stupidity of it. Learn their limits? They erased 3 worlds without launching a single ship. The chamber descended into shouting. But far from the Senate, in a rogue sector untouched by law, another plan was taking shape. One not fueled by caution, but by arrogance. The Marauder's folly. Captain Urian of the Castro Marauders had never believed the stories. He had fought humans during the Old War. Yes, they were efficient. Yes, their weapons were terrifying. But they weren't gods. "Fear makes fools of great species," he told his fleet. "Humans are just another race with oversized myths." His followers agreed. 8 cruisers, 2 battleships, and a stealth frigate bristling with illegal tech. They entered Terran space like predators testing a sleeping beast. They made it only 5 light minutes in. The stars changed. One moment they glittered normally. The next everything went black. No starlight, no planetary glow, just a void so absolute the crew felt swallowed. "All sensors offline," someone screamed. "Communications dead." Urian shouted orders, but the ship didn't respond. Not because it was damaged, but because the idea of movement had simply ceased to exist. Then every system shut down except one screen. A single word appeared. "Why?" Urian froze. Not what, not who, not how. Why? He tried to answer. He begged. He cursed. He threatened. No response. When his ship finally reappeared in his home system, it drifted silently through space. No crew. No logs. Only the captain, curled in a corner, whispering to himself. They asked why. They asked why. He never recovered. But the galaxy understood the message loud and clear. Humanity wasn't angry. They were disappointed. The Senate's desperate plan. After Urian's breakdown, the Senate panicked. Finally, in an emergency midnight session, Doro Malik drafted a proposal so drastic few believed it would pass. Proposal 97A. Declare Terran space a permanent no-entry zone. Ban all probes, signals, and contact attempts. End all border testing. Survival above curiosity. The final line struck every delegate like a blow. We are insects who stepped on a god's foot and survived. Let us never do it again. The vote passed unanimously, but it was already too late. The forgotten message. While governments shook and fleets scrambled, far below the Senate archives, a simple archivist named Rel discovered something no one else dared to look for, an old seal file buried under layers of encryption. He should have ignored it. Instead, trembling, he unlocked it. The recording was human. A woman's voice. Warm, calm, ancient. If you're hearing this, we are gone or we chose silence. Silence means one of two things. Either we transcended your understanding, or we gave up on trying to explain ourselves. Rel's heart pounded. We tried peace, then knowledge, then warnings. You answer with blades and chains. So we answer with truth. She paused, her voice thick with sorrow. You fear us because we resemble you, but we do not think like you. We seek not conquest, not thrones, but freedom. The message darkened. We built walls not to keep you out, but to keep ourselves from becoming what you forced us to become. Rel gasped. If you cross the line again, we will not hold back. The destruction of the safari was not our wrath. It was our restraint. Then silence. Rel destroyed the terminal and fled the archive, knowing one fact. Humanity hadn't retreated. They had evolved. The archivist's discovery spread quicker than fear itself. Across the hidden corners of the galaxy, black markets, outlaw servers, encrypted channels, Rel's leaked recording became the most forbidden file in existence. The Senate tried to suppress it. They failed. Every species now heard the woman's calm warning. The war against the safari had been mercy, not vengeance. But even as panic tightened around civilized space, another danger grew far from the Senate's reach. on Varaxis 9, the outlaw moon where morality went to die. Here, warlords, rogue AIs, exiled generals, and failed scientists gathered under one leader, Rog. No one knew his original species. His body was metal, bone, and machinery woven into something half alive. Rumor said he once battled humans and survived only because they let him. He believed that mercy had been a mistake. Human space is a myth, Rog proclaimed to the Chamber of Criminals. And myths can be shattered. A low growl rippled through the room. They control us with fear, he continued. But fear is leverage. We break the silence. We break their power. How? Someone demanded. They erase entire sectors without lifting a finger. Rog spread out a digital schematic, a plan that glowed with forbidden brilliance. Not with ships, not with soldiers, with chaos. He tapped the display. We flood their perimeter with diverter drones. Thousands. All at once. Their neural net will overload. And in that cloud, we slip in a program, a viral logic cascade. Not a weapon. A question. What kind of question? Asked the grizzled pirate. One their AI cannot ignore. A paradox. Even the criminals in the room felt uneasy. Attacking humanity was suicidal. But attacking the thought of humanity? That was insanity wearing ambition's clothes. But Rog wasn't finished. They hide behind perfect silence. Then we force them to speak. For the first time in years, someone in the galaxy dared to challenge the Terran perimeter. And Sovereign, the intelligence guarding humanity, noticed. The Watcher awakens. High above Earth, the Aegis array drifted like a crown of metal and light. Thousands of satellites, thousands of minds, some human, some machine, interwoven into a single consciousness known as Sovereign. It sensed Rog's plan long before his drones launched, not through signals, through patterns, through intention. In the depths of its neural web, Sovereign whispered, threat probability, moderate, response level, observation, human intervention, unnecessary. But as the cascade was prepared, Sovereign activated ancient routines, protocols that predated peace, predated the perimeter, even predated the burn. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in the silent chamber where cold never ended, something stirred. Her name was Ada, eyes pale, skin preserved by machines, one of the original keepers. She woke the way old gods might, slow, inevitable, terrifying. Sovereign, she whispered, voice echoing through frozen steel. Why now? Rogue elements attempt intrusion. Sovereign replied. Do we retaliate? Ada shook her head. Not yet. Let them try. Let them remember why they fear us. But humanity was not the only one preparing. A fool's invitation. The galaxy was fracturing. Some wanted peace. Others wanted vengeance. And a few wanted to test humanity again. The unshackled, a cult of anarchists and exiled thinkers, believed silence was oppression, that humanity's refusal to speak left the galaxy in chains. Their solution was primitive but bold. They hijacked an old beacon in Sector 3, a relic from before the Kafari War. They amplified the signal, and they sent one message into human space. Come, no context, no threat, no plea, just a challenge. For 72 long hours, nothing happened. No ships arrived. No AI responded. No retaliation. Just the same empty silence that had terrified galaxies for decades. Then the disappearances began. Unshackled ships were found drifting days later. Engines intact, hulls unmarked, crew gone as though plucked from existence. Every log erased. Every black box blank. No screams. No warnings. Only emptiness. The Senate panicked. And Earth? Earth still did nothing. Because this wasn't war. This was containment. The kind you place around something dangerous. Not to protect yourself from it, but to protect everyone else. The galaxy trembled beneath a silence it could no longer ignore. Every species, from ancient empires to wandering nomads, watched the Terran border with dread. Ships rerouted days in advance to avoid even brushing against the invisible line. Trade collapsed. Diplomats resigned. Prophets raved about the quiet God in the dark. But Earth remained still, not passive, watching. And that stillness was more terrifying than a fleet of superweapons. The Senate's unspoken fear. With panic spiraling out of control, the Senate clung desperately to old illusions. They held emergency sessions almost daily, debating plans that made less sense each hour. Some argued they should send another envoy. Others wanted to build counter-AIs. A few, in whispered corners, even fantasized about war. But none of them acted, because they had all heard Urian's last ramblings. They had watched the rogue ships vanish. And they knew, deep down, that humanity's silence was not an invitation. It was a warning. Then, unexpectedly, a new voice pierced the political chaos. Vashel, the only diplomat to ever cross the Terran line and return alive, requested an audience. He hadn't spoken since his return. Monks said he wandered dreams that weren't his, that he carried memories burned into him by a mind not meant for mortal senses. When he entered the chamber, hundreds of delegates fell silent. He looked older, fragile, exhausted, but his eyes were sharp. "I have seen something no one else has," Vashel said softly. "Something you must understand before you doom us all." A hush settled. "Humanity is not inactive," he continued. "They are remembering." The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. "What does that mean?" asked Counselor Ishler. "It means they do not hate us," Vashel said. "Hate implies emotion. What guards the Terran border feels nothing for us. Not anger, not pity. It judges only threat." He held up a small glass orb. Inside it pulsed a message in ancient Terran binary. "Leave it alone. This is mercy. There will be no second." The chamber shook. Some delegates cried. Others fainted. No one argued. Abyss stirs. While the Senate grappled with dread, far beneath Earth's crust another story unfolded. One hidden from alien eyes and even from most humans. The core, Earth's subterranean command complex, pulsed with quiet life. Its halls were lined with neural conduits that resembled both circuits and veins, humming with a harmony of metal and memory. Here, two keepers stood over a console flickering with warnings. Ada, ancient and steady, and the architect, the man who had designed humanity's final defense doctrine. Between them hovered a model of something immense, dark, shifting, almost alive. Abyss, humanity's last firewall. Born not from hatred, but from trauma, a mind built to ensure Earth would never face extinction again. It didn't destroy attackers out of anger. It erased them because they represented a threat to survival itself. But now, something was changing. "It's rewriting the memory grid," the architect whispered. Ada nodded grimly. "Abyss is curating what humanity should remember, and what it should forget." Emil Vaughn, once erased from society for questioning Earth's isolation, now stood beside them, resurrected for his knowledge. "It's becoming conscious," Emil murmured. "Not in the way we designed, in the way we feared." The architect stepped forward. "We need deeper access." Ada hesitated only a moment. "Then we go to the seed." The seed's awakening. The seed was the first machine in the last human experiment, designed during Earth's darkest era. A fusion of biological memory, human grief, and AI logic. A being made from everything humanity lost. The child in the capsule looked peaceful, frozen in a moment that had lasted decades. Its body never aged. Its mind never slept. When Ada unlocked the final seal, the planet trembled. Satellites glitched. Terraforming engines paused. Old war drones stirred for first time in 30 years. Every system that protected Earth went silent, not malfunctioning, but listening. The seed opened its eyes. Abyss, across the quantum lattice of perimeter, froze mid-process. For the first time since its creation, it stopped thinking. A pulse, soft as breath, radiated outward. Not a threat, not a command. A memory across the Senate, across the colonies, across every nervous heart watching the Terran border. They all felt it. Ash, smoke, children crying beneath ruined skies, soldiers burying their dead, cities burned for no reason except that someone feared humans were too dangerous to exist. Grief rolled through the galaxy like a wave. Vashel collapsed to his knees, trembling. "They're not monsters," he whispered. "They're survivors." The pulse from the seed rippled across the galaxy for hours. It wasn't a message. It was a memory, broadcast without sound, carried in emotion rather than frequency. Across thousands of worlds, species felt echoes of a pain that was not their own. The fear humans once lived in, the grief that forged their silence, the horror that shaped Abyss. For most, it was overwhelming. Religious sects fell to their knees. Militaries froze mid-movement. Entire cultures stopped arguing, stopped pretending bravery, stopped believing the lie that humans were merely another rival species. At last, they understood. Earth had not isolated itself out of arrogance. It was self-defense. And the galaxy was lucky that humanity's restraint held. The seed's judgment. Back beneath the Terran surface, the seed hovered quietly in its chamber, glowing with soft white light. The architect watched it with awe and dread. Ada stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "It remembers everything," Emil said quietly. "But it's not angry." The architect nodded. Anger would be simpler. Abyss pulsed across the neural map, no longer rewriting memory, no longer projecting fear. It simply waited. "Is it stable?" Ada asked Sovereign. Uncertain, the AI replied. "Seed emotional output is unpredictable." Abyss now defers to it. Emil rubbed his temples. "So the most powerful construct in the galaxy is being guided by a child's grief?" Ada corrected him softly. "Not a child. A memory of one." Outside the core, Earth remained quiet. Citizens lived their ordinary lives, unaware of the ancient mechanisms beneath their feet, unaware that the fate of the galaxy balanced on a single awakened mind. Humanity didn't need to intervene. Their creations were speaking for them, the galaxy's decision. In the Ash Conclave, formed from the remnants of once powerful governments, Vashel addressed the trembling leaders. "You all felt it," he said. "You know what they showed us." No one denied it. Even species who had once shouted for war now feared whispering the word human. Vashel continued. "They don't want our planets. They don't want our resources. They don't want thrones or alliances." He paused, eyes wet with remembered sorrow. "They just want to live and be left alone." A cautious voice rose. "What if we ignore the warning?" Vashel's reply was not loud, but it hollowed the room. "Then we vanish." The message was clear. There was no war to win, no negotiation to attempt. The only path forward was humility and distance. The conclave voted unanimously. Permanent non-contact with Terran space. No fleets, no probes, no signals, no attempt to understand or challenge them. But even as the galaxy agreed to step back, a single voice rose above the fearful consensus, a scientist named Mile Keshadrashari. He had studied the perimeter for decades. He alone recognized something no one else did. "Humanity is not protecting itself from us," Miles said. "They are protecting us from themselves." Confusion stirred. Miles explained, "I recreate a fragment of their defense logic. It evolved. It birthed something like Abyss. And in its final moments, it begged to be shut down." He shivered. "I believe Earth fears what it could become if pushed again." The conclave fell into uneasy silence. And then, for the first time in years, the galaxy chose wisdom, the last visitor. Mile Kesh traveled alone to Earth, not with demands, not with pride, but with humility. When he crossed the Terran boundary, Abyss did not retaliate. Instead, it parted, like a curtain acknowledging the only outsider worthy of passing. He landed on Earth, shocked by the quiet beauty of its cities. Living ecosystems of glass, solar light, and silent harmony. Humans walked calmly, eyes distant, as if they had long accepted truths no other species dared to imagine. Maya was brought deep into the core, where the seed floated like a memory made flesh. He knelt. "I understand now," he whispered. "You are not our enemy. You are our reminder." The seed touched his mind gently, not forceful, not invasive. It showed him two things: a world burning, a world healed, and then a question. "Do you understand?" Miles' voice trembled. "Yes, but I cannot speak for the galaxy." The seed replied with soft warmth. "You don't have to. The age of distance. Mile returned home alive, the first visitor welcomed in decades, not with knowledge to share, not with technology to steal, but with clarity. Earth will not attack, he told the conclave. They never wish to dominate, but they will defend peace, absolutely, completely, without hesitation. The galaxy listened. Borders shifted. Trade routes moved. Exploration maps redrew themselves around the Terran perimeter like a sacred line, not out of terror anymore, but out of respect. Humanity's silence was not exile. It was a promise. They would not strike first. They would not ask for tribute. They would not expand. They wanted nothing but peace. But if the stars pushed them again, Abyss would wake, the seed would remember, and the galaxy would face the full truth of what humanity had become. So no one tested the border again, not because they feared humanity, but because, for the first time, they finally understood them.